There's been quite a bit of Star Wars news to kick off 2024. None of it good, but there has been a lot of it, and well, we'll just go ahead and throw another log on this old dumpster fire, shall we? Daisy Ridley teases a new Star Wars film is taking a story in a different direction. Wow, is Rey gonna actually have a character arc, progression? Is she gonna overcome anything? Is she gonna train a little? No, none of that stuff. She's just gonna be great, continue to be great, have other people doubt her, and then in the final act just prove how great she was the entire time. I'm sure that that's that new direction that everybody is waiting for. Daisy Ridley is set to reprise her role of Rey Skywalker in an upcoming Star Wars film directed by Sharmeen Obaid. It's finally time for a woman to take control of a galaxy far, far away, Chinoy. In a new interview, Ridley is expressing her excitement over the project and teasing that the story is going in a different direction. Oh boy, I can't wait. So I thought about it for a little bit, and once I knew what the story was and everything, I knew it was something I really wanted to do, Ridley said in an interview with Allociné, which I had to pull up the interview because I hadn't heard of the outlet, and well, it was a YouTube video, otherwise I would have used the source material, but as you can see, it's in French, and it's, not exactly all that popular, and at least at time of recording, it's 3 days old and has 4,100 views. I have videos that perform better than this, okay, and she's a quote-unquote Hollywood star. Well, she's a Star Wars star. Outside of that confines, she can't even be in a film. Her most recent outing couldn't even break $1 million at the box office. So yeah, she could have looked over the script 25 times, didn't agree with any of it, but she desperately needed the work, so you know she was going to take it anyways, I think it's really fantastic exploration of the Star Wars world. It's really cool way of taking the story in a bit of a different direction. Well, if she's being sincere when it comes to this, different in regards to Disney Star Wars, so compelling, actually has cultural impact outside of a year or two the other direction from when these films ultimately release, because, okay, cool, Star Wars, since its acquisition by Disney, has put out 5 films, none of them come out in the past 5 years, but how many people outside of, the commentary community, or community that's online, actively rewatches or even thinks about any of those films? Like The Mandalorian, which was just supposed to be a goofy little space western, ended up becoming the most popular thing in Star Wars just by simple accident, just because, at least for the first season, you can go ahead and quibble for as much as you want, it was doing ground level stories, and it wasn't desecrating legacy characters, something that the sequel trilogy, that was about the only thing that they could get right, completely and totally ruin everything that you loved about the OT, and then, oh wait, we'll get around to the prequels, we just need a couple of other streaming shows under our belt. So yeah, if they're going to be going in a different direction from that, might actually be worth seeing, but I won't hold my breath. Ridley last played Rey Palpatine in 2019's The Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. The future of the Star Wars universe and the Skywalker timeline seemed uncertain until a new film directed by Obaid-Chinoy was announced. The new film is set after the events of Rise of Skywalker as Rey builds a new Jedi Order. And yeah, we've looked at some of the plot leaks behind that, and well, let's just say, if any of those are to be believed, where she's going to be, delivering an immaculate conception Force baby care of the Force ghost of Kylo Ren in order to ward off the advances of one Darth Plagueis. Oh my god, it sounds so atrocious, but who knows, we're not likely to see this film until 2026 at the earliest. In November of 2023, Ridley talked about how nervous she was at London's Star Wars Celebration earlier in the year when the project was announced publicly. Would anybody even remember me? Would I get booed off stage? Oh, don't worry, Disney is looking after everybody that's allowed into the audience, so of course no dissenting voices would be allowed. I was shitting myself before I went on stage because no one knew I was I was going to do that. Nobody actually cared. No one knew I was going to Celebration. Well, it was in London, by the way, and that's also where you live, and given how bad condition Star Wars is in right now, they just thought, well, we didn't really want to cover for airfare, and plus we already have a spot that's over there, so yeah, we can cover like an Uber ride, but not like a nice Uber Black ride or something like that. Like, we can get you there, but Do you mind a Prius? Actually, we can comp your parking if you can go ahead and get yourself there. That'd be great. So nobody knew I was going to be at Celebration Bar like Kathleen Kennedy, and there were a couple of other people. So I was so nervous. Oh God. She continued, "It was such a wonderful reception. I'm very excited. This story is really cool. You can continue to say that, but you also said that for everything else that you've been a part of." And this is always the standard marketing whenever a new Star Wars project is being announced, a new show is being greenlit. It's like, oh, it's going to be really cool. We're going to be able to see what Obi-Wan Kenobi was doing between the prequel trilogy and the OT. It's going to be filling in and really answering questions nobody was asking. It's like, you guys all remember, or you guys all wonder what happened to Boba Fett when he fell into that Sarlacc pit. Boy, do we have a story for you. It's all about trying to humanize the Tusken Raiders. Wait, what? Or do you remember that Ahsoka girl from the Clone Wars show? No, nobody does. Those are all the very exciting stories that are waiting in the wings for Star Wars because, okay, cool. You got this Rey movie. You got the Dave Filoni movie. You got Mandalorian and Grogu, which is apparently, unironically, going to be the name of that Jon Favreau project, which... holy shit, that's not a placeholder. I thought it was a placeholder. Everybody thought it was a placeholder, but Disney came out with, nope. Lucasfilm ordained from up on high that it will be Mandalorian and Grogu. That would be like if they released A New Hope today, that it would be Space Battle. Like, what the fuck are we doing? But that just tells you this cool new direction is going to be devoid of unique and interesting thoughts. But this is something that, well, everybody's really picking up on. And here's an interesting article that I stumbled across. Star Wars won't succeed until producers prioritize storytelling. Well, they're going to be doing that now because there's a really fun script that's on the way. Disney media conglomerate recently announced a spate of new Star Wars movies. Yes, one that was very poorly received thanks to the director coming out and making it all about mutable characteristics. And then they immediately had to go, the Mandalorian Grogu movie is going to be great. One of the three is said to pick up 15 years after the previous installment, 2019's Rise of Skywalker, which actually might be both a description and reality by the time that it rolls out. But anyways, reprising Daisy Ridley's role as Rey. Yes, have your first outing from your desecrated franchise featuring prominently the character that was integral in desecrating the franchise. Really smart decision you made there. Though the rest of the cast remains under wraps, yeah, depending on which script leaks we can go with. The biggest shakeup is the film's director, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, the two-time Oscar winner, the first female under 37 documentarian from a foreign land to win 2 Oscars. She's so great and trend-setting. Largely made her career in activism, and that's another clip that has made the rounds with Sharmeen proudly declaring, and I'd like to see how all of those people is like, oh, what she was saying about making men feel uncomfortable, that was taken out of context. What about the clip of her saying that everything that she does is ingrained with her activism? How are you going to go ahead and square that circle? Filming documentaries that shed light on the plight of women in Pakistan. Yeah, I guess that's important, but how also do you reconcile the main topic of one of your documentaries would later come back and recant everything that was a part of the documentary and then go on to sue you? How do you make that work? Anyways, it was partially for this reason, for a comment during a 2015 panel in the discussion at the Women in the World. That's the one where I love to make men feel uncomfortable summit, where she stated her goal as a filmmaker was to make men feel uncomfortable. No, was quickly misinterpreted when taken out of context and was intended direction for the upcoming Star Wars reboot. See, guys, it was just taken out of context until you realize that, oh no, if she actually wanted it to be a nuanced take, she would have added several disclaimers. But no, she just wants men to feel uncomfortable. She was speaking at the time about her documentaries, which cover honor killings, acid attacks, and unjust death sentences against women under Pakistan's dictatorial Islamic regime. A worthy cause, but not a typical resume for a space adventure film director. Exactly. And for all of the defense that was ran until the Jon Favreau announcement came about, it was, oh, look at all of those toxic man babies that are online. They just hate women that are in control of the franchise. It's like, nah, man, there have been prominent characters in Star Wars, and frankly, prominent female characters in all throughout Hollywood, and nobody's ever had a problem with them. it's 2023 and 2024. Women can do stuff now. No, that had absolutely nothing to do with it. It was just, okay, this is supposed to be your grand return to the cinema for the once biggest cinematic franchise of all time. And you decide to give the reins to a career activist. Yeah, not a good move. Not a smart move. Released against the backdrop of the Cold War, George Lucas's original 1977 Star Wars film captivated audiences, cutting across the demographic lines, the universal theme of the hero's journey, and the classic battle of good versus evil. While its highly acclaimed sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, in this serviceable conclusion. Serviceable? Oh, come on, it's a little bit better than serviceable. I've probably seen it's either between Attack of the Clones or Return of the Jedi. I've probably seen either one of those the most, but it's always from Endor on when it comes to Return of the Jedi that I've seen multiple times. Not so much the Jabba's palace stuff and then the lead up to all that and, you know, rescuing Han from Carbonite from, well, that is from Jabba's palace anyways, but anyways, it's better than serviceable. Come on now. The throne room, all the stuff between Luke and Vader, that ends up carrying the day anyways. That's better than anything. That payoff right there is often cited as the best part of the original Star Wars trilogy in general, and it's leagues better than anything else that Disney has put out with the Star Wars label slapped on it. So to say that it's serviceable, come on now. We're successful. Subsequent attempts to recapture the charm of the original trilogy have largely fallen short. This could be a fault of George Lucas's hubris to think that he could forego a compelling narrative in his prequels. Man, this tired talking point. Like, come on. Like, the prequels aren't fantastic films, but they are enjoyable. Instead, make a trilogy centered on, oh my god, this fucking brain-dead interpretation. Oh, it's just all about politics, and that's what made it boring. No, it was the shit dialogue that made it really boring and really trite. Yeah, but it was just about politics, trade disputes, and Senate hearings. No, it was underutilized characters, and yeah, of course, the aforementioned terrible dialogue. I don't even need to say anything more than sand, and you know exactly where I'm going. Or maybe it was the pervasive progressive ethos of modern film studios that led Kathleen Kennedy to reshape the Star Wars universe in 2015, aiming to mirror the demographics of modern-day Manhattan. No, just look like central casting in a McDonald's commercial. Perhaps more of the audience could see their ethnicities reflected through characters on the screen. Yeah, you know, you're telling this interplanetary and intergalactic story where you have alien representation. So I guess the people pouring through the southern border feel represented. But the banal and meandering plot resonated with none. Following the trajectory of the franchise hit its nadir in 2017 with the polarizing Last Jedi. Surprised you don't have anything on that, which garnered 42% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, there's many more problems with that other than, you know, they desecrated Luke. There's a bunch of different writing problems that are right there. Once again, shout out to Mahler's 3-part The Last Jedi series. It's bewildering that, despite the rich and endless lore the Star Wars universe affords, both attempts at reviving the franchise for new audiences have leaned heavily on original characters. Yeah, it's so funny because I just recently heard, actually I can't even pinpoint down where I heard it, but Disney did something remarkable with Star Wars where they took this giant sprawling galaxy, this timeless story where you could do literally anything, and they shrunk everything down, and they just basically made it a couple of different spots, different sand planets, and made it feel like just something that could happen within the confines of a state. Like, instead of going really, really, really far into the future or really, 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 really far into the past, you decided to do neither. Stick everything in this one epoch. Just tell awful stories over and over again. So yeah, hopefully, you know, maybe in the future, maybe if they just allow somebody, if they sneak somebody in through the back door to tell a compelling Star Wars story, they just decide to do something completely different. Apparently, James Mangold, there's so many people that are attached to Star Wars projects at this point in time. He was going to be doing something about, I think about the High Republic set really, really early in the timeline, but also, you know, Kathleen Kennedy coming in and, oh my god, unironically saying that it's just really tough to know where you're going to take a franchise that just doesn't have any source material. Meanwhile, the extended universe was one of the first things that you ended up cutting in one of your first polarizing moves as Lucasfilm boss. Idiot. This approach uses them as a crutch instead of striving to create an original story. It seems the galaxy far, far away only has room for a dozen characters. Exactly, and they all just coincidentally meet one another. It's very strange. The only decent Star Wars movie made since 1983 is 2016's Rogue One. Yeah, okay. An original story. An original story? You know how that starts. You know how that ends, right? Anyways, tangential to the Skywalkers. Tangential. It butts right up to A New Hope. Like, it's beaming up the Death Star plans to R2-D2 in order to get them to Princess Leia. Oh my god, like, oh man, come on. Existing outside the now 9-movie-long series. It's supposed to be the Skywalker saga, but I think my Blu-ray copies that are over there is the complete saga, and that's the way that I like to look at it, even as somebody who's not the biggest Star Wars fan. But if they were good films, I would be around to look at them, but they aren't. They're too busy centered on who and where instead of the what and why. And until they smooth out those problems, you're going to be stuck in this holding problem with Star Wars and so many other Disney projects for a very, very long time. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.